So, to begin, I would like to note that I received some feedback regarding the Ballad of the Great Varley. Apparently, some of my descriptions were perceived as kinda gay, which was, in fact, not my intent, XD. Apparently, you can't comment on a man's buff thighs these days. Hence, I would just like to go on record and make it clear my love for Varley is of a very platonic sort. For all those parties concerned, XD. Yeah, we believe you, Alex. All right, with that out of the way, after finishing the last life update, I responded to William over Messenger. Also, he was both deeply honored and embarrassed by his ballad. Apparently, he had to stop when he listened to Jake's narration, though, because it was just too much XD. I then went to church where Neo, Sydney, and Alan all attended for the first time. And honestly, I think they all liked it a lot. I think there's a decent chance they will come to Southgate again in the long run. Although I don't know when they plan to start since they're still involved with AP. Anyway, the topic of choice at the lunch bunch table was my old Alexization of the Phineas and Ferb opening, which in hindsight is definitely somewhat embarrassing. Neo has threatened to make a remake for each of my instrumental playlist vibes, though who knows if he'll actually go through with it. So yeah, definitely a more notable lunch bunch to be sure, XD. I then played D&D over at Neo's house before going to Timberline Church, where we got free food and watched The Sound of Freedom, which was pretty intense, not gonna lie. That movie is definitely not for the faint of heart. As soon as that ended, I was introduced to Peter and Maddie, who are somewhat new friends Sydney has made, and honestly, I enjoyed them both quite a bit. I think it would be cool if they became integrated into the Neo friend group. We just did a lot of small talk with them for the next 2 hours or so, and then that was that. Once I got home, I cracked some letters, but not because I was experiencing any particular strong emotion, but rather because emotions are mega confusing. See, for like a solid week, whenever I had a moment of free time, I would experience a cocktail of feelings. I have affectionately deemed Q. And while it is true Q was not particularly pleasant, that's about all I could tell you about it. Actually, identifying the constituent emotions which comprise Q is surprisingly challenging. I think there's genuinely a skill set to be spoken of here, one that I suspect FI dominant types are naturally gifted in, and hence I'm going to make a concerted effort to slurp their knowledge. Also, I love the fact that what Phi is good for, sorry, I said Phi, I meant FI, sorry, is good for is helping other people with FI, XD. It's like, what's a philosophy degree good for? You know what, actually, screw you guys, I'm going to start referring to FI as Phi. Phi is good for is helping other people with Phi, XD. It's like, what's a philosophy degree good for? Teaching other people's philosophy, obviously, XD, XD. But objective value of Phi aside, I am nevertheless unfortunate enough to have inferior Phi, so I actually need Phi skills and really am in no place to criticize, But regardless, here I am, staring at this emotional beast, which I can't even tell what sort of emotion it is. And what has become apparent to me is my emotional intelligence is clearly not up to snuff to conquer this. Like, I'm level 8, and this beast is clearly at least level 20, XD. Hence, I read some letters in hopes that the nukes would deal with Q. And they did, but not permanently, I genuinely have never before experienced an emotion so resistant to both understanding and conquest as Q. It was like fighting a boss after only fighting his minions your whole life. Actually, a whole different ballgame. And my previous GIMP techniques were not working, XD. So yeah, that's why I cracked the letters, and while they did provide temporary reprieve, again, didn't actually fix the problem. Again, actually, I still don't know what fixed the problem, now that I think about it, Q just kind of faded out as time went on. I mean, after like a week of being vexed by it, I kind of got an understanding of its constituent parts. But even then, not convinced I ever fully grasped both what I was feeling or why. I bet you Q isn't dead. It's just temporarily absent, I'll probably still have to actually deal with whatever that was and whatever was causing it sometime in the future. Emotions, man. Actually the weirdest and most confusing things. Like I need some sort of Pokedex. That would at least tell me what each emotion is weak to. It would be great. You could just scan the feeling and then it would be like, Static harp, water type. Week 2, grass, electric, and ice cream. Type attacks. Dominant Phi users, your time has come. Make me an emotion Pokedex, XD. Anyway, the point is, I felt things. It was confusing, and now I need to find an Phi sensei to teach me great wisdom and level up my emotional intelligence. And then I watched anime and slept. The next day I woke up, did Fanime, a tiny bit of philosophy, and then I drove over to Joe's house bearing tribute of Wendy's spicy nuggets. From there, he joined me in the Phoenix, and we drove up to Estes and climbed on this building we probably shouldn't have climbed on. Here's a picture of Joe doing that. That's an interesting picture. Okay. The weather was honestly really nice also. Just in general, it's been really nice. Winter is a lie, ... We talked for ages, like 5 hours or something. And then, once we got back, I had a brief conversation with Karia and Joe together about how to ISTJ/ISFP communicate, which I think was well received and they found it helpful. However, I had to leave fairly promptly because stargazing was planned and lol, I was hosting. Don't want to show up late to your own party, XD. So I drove home and met up with Noah, Benj, and Johanna, and we decided that we should get Pokey, which I had never had before. Here is a picture of said Pokey and Pokey Place. Honestly, mine was just so-so. I'm told this is because I chose the wrong things. I picked seaweed as my base, because how often do you get to be served a slimy green ball? But particularly Benj and Noah thought theirs was real good. So perhaps the lesson I ought take away is spicy tuna is great, XD. But honestly, the thing I was most excited about was the miso soup, because this stuff is legendary in anime, and I had never had it before. Unfortunately, didn't live up to the hype. It just tastes like salt, XD. But hey, now I've had miso soup and Pokey, so we're reaching all kind of landmarks these days. From there, Ben spontaneously desired boba, so me and him got this starfruit boba, which was honestly not bad. Also, Johanna got wings, and it actually worked so perfectly. Oh, I thought wings, like wings, hot wings. Yeah. I love how smug she looks. Oh, picture. There's a picture. I love how smug she looks. XD. Her face just says, I have rainbow wings. You plebeians are beneath me, ... After boba, we just headed back to my house. Neo and Sydney arrived, and then we all piled in the Noah's car and began our trek up the canyon to my stargazing spot. We didn't have enough seats, though, so Benj and I hopped in the trunk, and that was honestly great. Also, Benj and I provided a top-tier vocal performance. Just want to point that out. XD. Once we got up there, small talk was engaged in, and then we spent about 45 minutes just listening to my Ultimate Peace playlist and being mildly cool. Well, apparently, those on the ends were more than mildly cold. Oh, I see, cold, not cool. Apparently, those on the ends were more than mildly cold, XD. It was pretty good. Unfortunately, some of the songs have lost their oomph for me, which was sad to discover. But such is life, I suppose. And with that, we drove back and just conversed on the way home, and that was the night. Tuesday, I had classes, but my journalism professor was sick. So I decided I would skip music appreciation, and instead I ate mochi at home, XD. After that, I reread some letters, cuz Q, and then I studied philosophy and was productive. From there, Neo came over, and we helped each other change each other's oil. And honestly, it was kind of fun. Chaining oil with friends is far better than changing oil alone. A new life slogan. Not sure about that one. We got that done with ease and finished in under 2 hours for both our cars, which was mildly impressive. And then Neo and I talked for a bit. We reached an arrangement, and I am very excited to begin my work. From there, I stalled before I went to the ratio. It was at that point that Alan, that beautiful man, finally returned to me. ... Dude, stop with the sus... Stop. See, he had technically been here this whole time, but the light had left his eyes. Bro, stop. His soul lived in a distant land, one of strife, financial struggle, and being a parent and husband. Alan has kids? As a result, his soul could not return to the paradise of intellectual violence that I have called whiteboard fights. And so for quite some time, I have been without an intellectual companion, sojourning alone, though a vast metaphysical landscape. But on this day, for a reason still unbeknownst to me, he returned in full force, eager to resurrect the Thomism I killed and equipped with a paradigm theory of existence. Of course, I've resisted his attempts heavily, and given my newfound expertise, Alan has no doubt found me a far more formidable opponent than when he left me, but nevertheless, it brings me great joy to have him back. So, like the days of old, we engaged in a good old-fashioned whiteboard fight, of which this is a picture. See all that orange unintelligibleness? Yeah, that's because, lol, I've read an entire metaphysics anthology, and so when Alan mentions Max Blackwell's iron spheres, or whatever his name is, I'm like, oh, don't get me started on this. I've read like 3 papers about this. Also, I think those spheres are dumb and don't prove thisnesses, just saying ... Oh, yeah. So, yeah, it was a beautiful whiteboard fight, and I'm actually so happy Alan is back XD. After that, we walked over to Neo's, and Alan got rambling about philosophers, which was fun. But he was on a roll, and I wanted to go home, so I very abruptly was like, all right, I'm leaving, and then left, which apparently people thought I was offended or something, but no, I just wanted to leave, and if I waited for Alan to give me a natural out, it would have been another hour, I assure you, XD. Once I got home, I then spent some time responding to Daniel Doxo, who finally caught me up on his life. And man, has that man been busy, ... He's actually had so many crazy cool experiences, and so it was epic to get caught up. Then, once I finished responding, I watched an episode of the anime and went to sleep. The next morning, I kicked off with some good old anthology reading. I then met up with Katie, who I guess has the last name Smith now, ... Never really computed that before, and we talked for a little over an hour about a healthy guy-girl friendship between us might look like. I'm trying to convince her she can join me for one-on-one car rides listening to music, because that sounds like something we would both enjoy. But apparently it seems scandalous. I actually don't understand this widespread view in Southgate that mixed-gendered one-on-one friendships / hangouts are impermissible, or at least taboo. But it's a thing. Still, when has social convention ever stopped me, XD? So yeah, it was honestly a very good conversation with Katie. Very straightforward and clear, and I love good, clear communication. We'll see where that all takes us in the future. From there, I slurped Neo into my car and then drove him up to the airsoft place where we hiked up to the ultimate sniper rock and talked. It was a very good conversation, quite productive. Once we got back, I dropped him off, did some fanime with just Mom, because lol, Grace and Dad are in New Zealand at the moment. I don't think I mentioned that before, ... I then studied more philosophy, took a nap, wrote in my docs some, and then dwelt upon how much I actually love the Attack on Titan cloak Elkin gave me. Okay, look, Attack on Titan is an okay anime. Like, I've almost finished it. It's needlessly violent and kind of depressing, but it's okay. The point is, I don't like this cloak because of what it represents, but rather just because it is a fantastic cloak. Wearing it like constantly being snuggled in a blanket, and yet it clings to you and doesn't obscure your arm movements. It's actually fantastic. I don't know how I lived without a cloak before this time in my life, semicolon. Everyone, you need to buy yourself a cloak. Does it look dumb? Maybe. But is it immensely comfortable and thus immensely worth it? Yes. It's like Karina's poncho thing. You wear it because you like it and it's nice. End of story. Basically, whenever I'm in the house these days, I have that cloak on. It's become probably my favorite article of clothing. Everyone, get yourself a cloak. The next morning, I was fasting, and thus I went to class in a fasted state. But oddly enough, I think that made it easier for me to focus. Like, classes just didn't feel that tedious that time around. After class, I went over to the Myers, because Johanna actually initiated something. Frost and chill, bless the Lord. ... I don't get that one. Once I got there, I went on a brief blade with Johanna, Sam, Seth, and Lily, which was okay. Johanna was leading. I intentionally took a very passive role. I did that whole evening. And we just kind of went nowhere in particular, XD, but still, it was decent. Once we got back, we all went and built Legos. Lily was both my model and my indentured brick-finding servant, and with our efforts combined, I made her this lovely Lego headdress. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. I'm honestly very proud of it. I had to put bricks together in a pretty unique way. But of course, I wasn't just making a headdress. I was also competing with Seth for the title of Lego Grandmaster. Hence, our respective headdresses went to the judging. Okay. Looking at the picture, man. Yeah, those are both really, really good. I'd probably hand it to Seth personally, but anyway, and though it was technically a tie, Seth totally won because both his voters gave confident superiority votes, while mine were like, I guess I prefer the silver one, ... Hee hee. So, at least for now, the title of Lego Grandmaster rests in Seth's hands, XD. After that, I went on a night walk with Johanna, which was nice. It was a very nice temperature. And then I played a few games of chess with Seth, and utterly destroyed before heading home. Oh, wait. The one thing I forgot to mention is I ate tea while everyone ate dinner. That was great, ... See, I was fasting, so I couldn't eat food. Hence, what I decided to do, too, was get 3 bowls of tea and drink them with a spoon, soup style, while everyone else ate. I think it was a great idea, XD. So yeah, I did that too, ... Once I got home, I wrote in my docs, listened to Jake's beautiful narration of the last Life Update email, actually fantastic, XD, and then got to work on this Life Update before going to sleep. Bro, you're setting the bar really, really high, making me nervous. And then chemo, ... Yay, ... This chemo round was definitely the worst thus far. Very unpleasant. Mom was my chemo buddy this time around, though unjustly, I was on my phone most of the time during chemo, so we didn't actually talk much. Sorry, Mom. And yeah, it was just a very unpleasant experience. Thanks for April's push for self-advocacy the night before. I asked them on board a second anti-nausea med before I left. But man, even then I just felt horrible. I couldn't focus on Attack on Titan when I got home. I just felt too bad. And I just tried to sleep over and over again because sleep is like the closest thing we get to teleporting into the future, XD. The one thing I did do that kept my mind off how bad I was feeling, at least part of the time, was I watched Across the Spider-Verse with Mom. But even with that movie being as fast-paced as it is, I was having a hard time paying attention. So yeah, the whole rest of the day just super sucked. Even writing about it, I can imagine the conglomeration of chemo symptoms in my body, and I have to actually just not think about the fact that I have 4 more rounds of this. Or I'm going to need to crack some letters, XD. Anyway, moving on for my sake. The next day, I felt somewhat better, but still quite bad. I just watched a lot of Attack on Titan till it was time to eat, but even then, everything was just super gross, and I had no appetite. And even when I did eat, I could only eat a little before just getting super queasy, ... The only productive thing I did that day was my taxes, which I guess is something, but otherwise it was largely a wash. I did play Starve.io with Katie briefly. Normally I don't play video games, but what else was I going to do with my life? And that mostly consisted of her dying and me doing well, XD, humble brag. But yeah, hey, it was fun. Then after that, I called a friend and went to sleep. A friend? Unusually ambiguous. Sunday, did I read that right? Then after that, I called a friend and went to sleep. Yeah, that's pretty ambiguous. Unusual. Sunday, I felt pretty bad, so I decided not to go to church or D&D and to take the day off. I still didn't have an appetite at this point, and I basically just watched anime and then did some work on my Magic Diamond notes. So at least I was able to be kind of productive, but still, man, felt blah. However, by the very end of the day, Mom made this potato soup. That was the first thing that actually tasted tolerable, and after eating a lot of it, I finally started to feel significantly better. From there, I talked with the great Varley, read more of the Nardi book, and ended the day. The next morning, I had Fanime, did a bit of philosophy, drove and got drugs, cleaned my car, walked and thought about good deep questions, called with Jordan, did Fanime, and then drove to Stanford's, in which I didn't use said deep questions, XD. with Joe, Karina, Noah, Benj, and Johanna, wherein I sponsored our meal with the $100 I had gotten from referring a credit card to Benj. Unfortunately, I still wasn't feeling 100% at that point, so I was more low energy. But still, it was nice. We just talked, played a game of special pool in the basement, which Joe won. Then Joe, Noah, and Johanna did weird dances, which I still can't bring myself to join in on. Then Karina and Joe took a selfie, and Johanna took a picture of them taking a selfie. And then Benj took a picture of Johanna, who was taking a picture of Joe and Karina, who were taking a selfie. And then Noah took a picture of Benj, who was taking a picture of Johanna, who was taking a picture of Joe and Karina, who were taking a selfie. And then I took a picture. Anyway, the point is the whole event was very relaxing because no social pressure to perform in any way because I'm just really comfortable around all these people. And yeah, it was great. We drove back, and my ballot to the Great Varley was discussed. Let's be honest. It was much more than discussed that night, XD. And then we got home and called it there. To round out the day, I wrote in my docs sum, and then that was it. The next morning began with philosophy. And I just want to say, I have a really nice setup here. Like, just sitting in my comfy chair, sipping chamomile tea, with IKEA chocolate, and with nice lighting, I'm honestly so blessed I get to spend my mornings this way. Like, it's just the epitome of relaxation and rest. Even if I am reading a metaphysics anthology, which is much less the epitome of relaxation and rest, XD. But from there, I went and attended classes. I absolutely bombed my music appreciation exam, but that's because it was a test you take online, and unlike the rest of my class, I was unwilling to cheat and look things up. I really feel like us morally scrupulous students majorly get screwed over sometimes. Because, you give a student an exam they can take at home, you should know as a teacher that everyone is going to be using the internet. And yet, some of us, because we know Santa Claus is always watching, don't cheat. And hence, when your exam question asks, is a snare drum a pitched or unpitched instrument? I don't look up what on earth is a snare drum, like everyone else. Anyway, if I fail at music appreciation, I do it for a good cause, I will make the nice list this year, XD. After that, I went and purchased salt and vinegar chips. Turns out salt and vinegar chips are also really good with chamomile tea, particularly the honey variety. And my Phoenix then finally found its voice and began to squeal quite loudly when I started it up. My new plan is to ratchet the alternator in place, Hee hee. It's like a zip tie, but cooler. I then did some more philosophy reading, watched some Attack on Titan with Mom, and then went to Ratio, where Alan and I White Nord fought once again. Here is a picture of that lovely board. Look at that man. Incarnate beauty, bro. So yeah, I did that. It was great. Then once I got home, I took an anime bath because my body ached. Actually, this is something that's pretty consistent. After chemo, your whole body gets achy. Have you ever had the tips or your ears ache? Yeah, it's a weird feeling, XD. The next morning I did philosophy, once again, quite relaxing. I then had phoneme, did more philosophy. Noah came over and I learned many big and important things. Also, he got his wisdom teeth out and was describing the process, and that hurt my soul. Please, never describe the process of having your bones carved from your skull to me. Shivers. After that, Braden came over and we went on a walk, and holy cow, I am weak. I had to sit down once we reached the cemetery after walking at a mere normal human pace, just because I was getting lightheaded. Gross. Still, it was a nice walk and a good talk. Once I got home, I ate food and watched Attack on Titan with Mom. I then spent 2 hours or so getting my resume together for the engineering career fair next week. From there, I watched more Attack on Titan with Mom, and then I called with Daniel Daxo, of all people. We hadn't seen each other in over 5 years, so it was trippy to catch up with him. But also, really cool. He's matured a lot. Honestly, it's remarkable how much 17 to 22 changes you, Anyway, after catching up with him, I bought a bunch more salt and vinegar chips and read philosophy while eating them until bed. Thursday classes were a slog, but I made it though. Once I got home, I did philosophy, had Fanime with Mom, did more philosophy, talked with Neo, and then taught philosophy class, where I got through a lot of really good content. There's just so many times I expect these guys to know things, and then they don't know, though. ... Like Giddier cases. You would think they would know, but nope, no idea. ... From there, we all went to Wendy's and got many nuggets. It was too many nuggets. And then we ate those in the dungeon. And then, after that, Neo and Noah left. But Joe stuck around, and we had a very good chat for the next 2 hours until about 1 a.m. Very glad we had that. And yeah, after that, I cracked Katie's letter, only to find an ungodly creation. See, you have to understand, Katie and I have an ... interesting relationship. Are we good friends? Yes. But is that friendship built on teasing, tears, and a bit of terror? Also yes. So when she wrote me a letter, she decided the time for the revenge of the Life Update email had come, and thus she made it intentionally as long as possible, just to spite me, XD. Like it was like 10 pages, I kid you not. 10 pages? I kid you not. Semicolon. Look at this thing. It barely fits in the envelope. And not 10 pages of significant heartfelt messages, mind you, but rather 10 pages of facts that are worse than dying of cancer, activities you should do before you die, and so on, ... Wow. Very glad I did not crack that letter when I was actually pretty down. But at the time when I actually cracked it, it was just absolutely hilarious. And there was also a small amount of it that was sincere, and that was good too. Anyway, Katie so far takes the Most Original Letter Award, ... Then, finally, as for yesterday, I woke up, read philosophy, joined Jake for a spontaneous conversation in which he sponsored me noodles, which was greatly appreciated, and that conversation was quite good. I then got home, did more philosophy, then Mom took me and Ben out for food, of which here is a pic. Where is that? Coopersmiths. Huh. And that was good. The place we wanted to go had an hour plus wait time, so we went to, there we go. So we went to Coopersmiths in the end, which was still quite good. Then once we got back, I did more philosophy before calling with Liam and confirming he is, in fact, an ISTJ. And then from there, I do more philosophy before going to bed. And that's it. The latest and greatest of Life Update emails. You're welcome.